Red wine stained her uniform. A mop was thrust into her hands, and laughter echoed as she was addressed as merely help and instructed to remain unseen. She was treated with disdain, as though her presence diminished the refined atmosphere of the elite, disregarded without recognition of her name, face, or prospects. However, what they were unaware of, what no one anticipated, was that the maid they ridiculed had quietly accumulated every secret, every deception, every scandal they attempted to conceal. Their empire crumbled unexpectedly. The estate exuded opulence. Marble floors extended seemingly without end, chandeliers shimmered with gold, and walls displayed paintings that spoke of inherited wealth. The Carlyles presided over it all, a family entrenched in politics and business, their names synonymous with influence. Vivian entered as their new housemaid, a woman in her 30s, her dark hair pulled back, her plain gray uniform unremarkable. She possessed beauty, with striking cheekbones and deep brown eyes, yet it went unnoticed. To them, she was a shadow, moving quietly through their world. Her employment began 6 months prior, and the experience was harsh from the outset. Victoria Carlyle, the lady of the house, moved about in silk robes, issuing commands as if Vivian were a machine. "Scrub the foyer again. Those tiles aren't gleaming," she would say even when they appeared spotless. Her daughter, Brooke, was even more difficult, with sharp heels and a sharper tongue, 25 years old and exhibiting a sense of entitlement. "Don't touch my bags. You'll smudge them," she would hiss, pushing past Vivian as if she were a piece of furniture. The guests were no better. Senators, CEOs, individuals with private jets, scarcely giving her a look as they requested new drinks or expressed dissatisfaction with the silverware's cleanliness. Vivian endured it all, lowering her head, speaking quietly, and keeping her hands still. This continued, day after day, in a cycle of fetching, cleaning, and bowing. Victoria once required her to remake a 5-course dinner arrangement because a napkin was slightly misaligned. Brooke yelled when Vivian inadvertently brushed against her purse. "I'm fortunate I don't dismiss you personally." The employees speculated she wouldn't remain. However, Vivian persevered, her composure unwavering, her silence a subtle strength unnoticed by many. One afternoon, Brooke abruptly took a tray of crystal glasses from Vivian's grasp. The fragile stems broke on the marble floor, seemingly intended to observe her reaction. "Oops, too heavy for you?" Brooke remarked, her heels tapping as she laughed, the shattering sound resonating throughout the foyer. Sharp fragments of glass sliced into Vivian's palms as she knelt to clean, blood mingling with the debris. But no apology emerged, only Victoria's harsh voice from the stairs. "You will pay for that clumsy fool." Vivian remained silent, her hands steady despite the pain, their harshness a whip striking across her lowered head. She polished their world while they walked over her, unnoticed unless they needed something or someone to mistreat. One evening, Victoria dumped a bucket of soapy water over Vivian's head in front of a group of elite guests relaxing in the parlor, the suds soaking her uniform and dripping onto the rug. "That's what you get for missing a spot," Victoria said, her silk robe swishing as the room erupted in laughter, a senator slapping his knee. "She's a drowned rat now." Brooke smirked, snapping a photo. "Perfect for the help scrapbook." Shivering and soaked, Vivian stood, wiping her face with a deliberate motion, ignoring their taunts as she endured them silently. Soon after, the party arrived. The Carlyle mansion shone that night, filled with the city's most prominent figures. Tuxedos, elegant gowns, and diamonds glittered like constellations. Vivian moved through the gathering, carrying a tray and pouring wine with practiced care. The atmosphere vibrated with business discussions and joyful sounds, the Carlyle family presiding over the event. As she refilled a glass, her elbow brushed against a woman, a prominent businesswoman named Diane Kessler. She was strikingly dressed, with blonde hair and a dress valued at $20,000. During the party, a plate of hors d'oeuvres was pushed into Vivian's chest by Diane. Immediately preceding the wine spill, the greasy appetizer stained her gray dress as the crowd murmured, "Carry it right or don't bother," Diane exclaimed, her blonde hair swaying as she turned to her companions. "She's a walking disaster. Look at her." Victoria advanced, her voice sharp. Clean yourself up. You're a disgrace. Brooke laughed derisively. She's the stain now. Vivian calmly removed crumbs, her silence a defense against their harsh amusement, feeling the room's attention focused on her. Red wine spread across the white silk, creating a noticeable mark. The atmosphere shifted, and then Diane spoke forcefully. People like you don't belong in a place like this. Her voice resonated, silencing the surrounding noise. All eyes turned to her. An accident had occurred. Vivian stood there, tray steady, wine dripping to the floor, her face blank. Victoria approached quickly, her heels clicking sharply. What happened? You've caused a scene in front of everyone, she exclaimed, her voice carrying throughout the room. Brooke observed with a slight smile, her arms crossed. She's made a mess. Remove her. Diane gestured to her damaged dress. I should take legal action against you for this. The onlookers responded with laughter, sharp intakes of breath, and whispers of how did she get in here. Following the wine spill, Richard threw a wad of cash at Vivian's face, the bills slapping her cheek as he shouted from across the room. That's for the dress. Now get lost. The crowd cheered, a woman in pearls shouting, pay up, maid. While Brooke clapped, she declared, she's worth less than that. Victoria sneered, urging, take it and crawl out. You've ruined enough. Vivian caught the money midair, her fingers steady, her brown eyes unblinking, the laughter of the onlookers feeling like a hammer pounding her down. She remained steadfast, simply tucking it into her apron and continuing to clean. Vivian did not react, only bending to address the spill. Her silence resonated more powerfully than their comments. The shame was intense. A senator laughed, remarking, guess they're hiring off the street now. A woman adorned with pearls whispered, she's got no business here. Victoria seized Vivian's arm, pulling her towards the kitchen. You're finished for tonight. Remain out of view, she hissed, pushing her through the door. Following the initial confrontation, Brooke stated, don't come back until you understand your place. A wave of mocking laughter trailed her, emanating from individuals who had never performed manual labor. As the party concluded, Victoria pressed a mop into Vivian's hands, her voice sharp as she directed her towards the spill. Clean it up, you're inadequate. For once, do something correctly. Guess. A CEO commented, she's not even competent at that. Simultaneously, Brooke positioned the mop bucket nearer, soaking Vivian's legs. Diane gave a scornful smile. Should have let her go a long time ago. Disgraceful. Vivian held the mop tightly, water collecting near her feet, her uniform stained with wine and grease, but she didn't react, simply beginning to clean. Their animosity, a burden she bore silently. Vivian remained in the dimness, drying her hands, her gaze unwavering, without tears or complaint. Afterward, as the party concluded and the mansion grew quiet, Vivian went to a small room located near the east wing. She secured the door, retrieved a burner phone from her apron pocket, and initiated a call. Her tone altered, becoming subdued, precise, and authoritative. The moment is at hand. Transfer the assets by tomorrow. A map adorned the wall with a red thread connecting various entities. Carlyle Holdings, Novalink, offshore banks. She followed a path with her fingertip, her expression distant, analytical. This was no ordinary hiding place. It was a strategic command center. She wasn't merely Vivian, the insignificant one. She was something else altogether. The following morning, the Carlyles convened in the oak-paneled study. Victoria, Brooke, and Patriarch Richard were present, all in crisp suits and with smug grins. Richard puffed a cigar. Novalink is our golden ticket, he stated. $500 million is at stake, and they're begging for us. Victoria nodded in agreement. We'll secure the deal today. Our most significant move yet. Brooke tossed her hair. I'll be leading that boardroom shortly. Unbeknownst to them, Vivian was in the adjacent room, listening intently near the wall. They were unaware that Novalink wasn't a far-off acquisition. It belonged to her. Operating under a legal alias, she had constructed it from nothing. A Southeast Asian empire valued at billions, 10 times the Carlyle fortune. She controlled the game they believed they were participating in. Her narrative was more complex, more troubling. 20 years prior, her father, Charles Lancaster, worked as a journalist. He was persistent, investigating the Carlyles' illicit dealings. Corruption, money laundering, and bribes were exposed. He possessed comprehensive evidence. Subsequently, an incident occurred, a car crash on a rainy night. The brakes had been tampered with. There were no witnesses. Vivian was 13 years old, observing her mother, who worked as a Carlyle maid, fall apart when she was dismissed. Sorrow consumed her mom a year later, leaving Vivian an orphan, her family broken by the Carlyles' actions. She made a vow then in that bleak orphanage to expose them, not through outbursts but through quiet determination. There was further injustice. The Carlyles enjoyed their public relations displays, taking in Mia, a 6-year-old orphan, and showcasing her at events as a symbol of their generosity. "Our angel," Victoria said to the press, all manufactured tears and staged photographs. The team was unaware that Mia was Vivian's niece, the daughter of her sister, Lily, who had also been employed by them. Lily had died unexpectedly, a fall down the mansion stairs. There was no formal inquiry. Vivian accepted the position of maid with a single purpose: to remain nearby, to protect Mia from those responsible for her mother's death. Each task, from cleaning shelves to serving drinks, brought her closer to fulfilling that commitment. Time passed, and the atmosphere grew strained. Richard finalized the Nova Link documentation, his expression conveying satisfaction. Vivian continued with her customary tasks: cleaning, assisting, and observing. Then Victoria spotted her close to Mia's room, her expression wary. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "You're dismissed. Leave immediately." Victoria attempted to seize her phone, initiating a call to security. "Have her removed now." 2 guards entered the room, but rather than apprehending Vivian, they paused, their heads lowered. "We await your command, ma'am," one stated, his voice resolute. Victoria's hand halted in mid-motion, her complexion paling. Vivian had systematically substituted each guard over several months. After 6 years of meticulous preparation, her strategy was nearing completion. The following evening, the Carlyles held a press gala, with cameras flashing and reporters eagerly discussing the event, creating a setting for their anticipated triumph. Richard addressed the audience. "Our family's legacy is unparalleled. Business, charity, leadership." The crowd responded with applause and smiles. Suddenly, the screens began to flicker. A woman stepped forward. Vivian, wearing a simple gray dress and with no makeup or special introduction. She connected a drive to the projector, and the room fell silent. Documents appeared on the screen. Evidence of tax fraud, fabricated charities, and records of bribes emerged. Years of revelations about Carlyle surfaced. It was undeniable. Speaking with a steady, unwavering voice, she declared, "I was the daughter of Charles Lancaster, the man you had killed. You took my family, my home, my sister." She explained her previous silence, stating, "Because sometimes silence is the loudest scream." The displays showed Charles and Gwen's past articles. Headlines detailed Carlyle's corruption, his handwriting appearing in the margins, providing proof of his involvement in covering up their wrongdoing. A wave of gasps rippled through the audience, quickly turning into shouts as Vivian's voice resonated, identifying him as her father. Richard's hand holding his cigar trembled, the dark history of his empire exposed, every concealed payment surfacing as specters threatening to overwhelm him. Victoria's luxurious silk robe appeared diminished as she watched. The maid she'd soaked was revealed to be the daughter of one of their victims, her presence a reflection they were powerless to destroy. Brooke's image of Vivian's wet uniform briefly filled her thoughts. A shocking revelation now turned against them, the truth a sudden and impactful disclosure that left them stunned. The onlookers gasped, cameras clicking. Richard's cigar dropped, Victoria's pearls were gripped tightly, Brooke's smirk vanished. Proof accumulated, offshore accounts, forged signatures, and a hit order from 1998 with Richard's initials. Vivian spoke calmly, without triumph, simply presenting the facts. Her brown eyes met theirs, and the situation quickly descended into disarray. Journalists surged forward, yelling questions. Is this true? Who is she? The Carlyles protested. Lies.
Fabrication.
But the proof was undeniable. 6 years of Vivian's work, each file a devastating piece of evidence. Richard's expression contorted as Vivian's evidence appeared on the screens, his cigar falling as he understood that every dollar he'd pursued was insignificant compared to her vast holdings. He had spent money on a woman who could have financed his existence 100 times over, and now he had lost everything. A photograph of Lily appeared next, Vivian's sister, young and smiling, then a death certificate confirmed an accidental fall, followed by payroll records listing her as their maid, the dates corresponding with Mia's birth. The audience fell silent, then reacted strongly as Vivian indicated Mia, saying, "She's my niece. Your angel was my blood." Victoria's insincere tears from press conferences seemed bitter. Her prized child exposed as a falsehood she's previously displayed, now a burden upon her. Brooke's self-satisfied grin from presenting Mia at galas disappeared. She had mocked the aunt while cuddling the niece, and the room's cheers drowned her out. Vivian's truth, a blade, shattered their facade. Victoria's pearls snapped in her grip, her sobs choked by the revelation that the maid she demeaned possessed more than her dreams. Her dynasty crumbled under Vivian's quiet hand. Brooke's heels wobbled as she stared, her smirk a distant memory. Nova Link's billions rendered her $500 million a child's game, and the press swarmed. Her downfall played out for the world to see. Their greed had blinded them, and Vivian's justice cut deeper than any blade, their empire dust at her feet. Then came the surprising development. Nova Link is pulling out, Vivian said matter-of-factly. Oh, and I own it. Every cent. Nova Link's logo flashed prominently, a corporate powerhouse Vivian had created, its billions displayed in real time, overshadowing the Carlyles' modest fortune as the press announced. She owns it all. Richard's $500 million deal disintegrated into nothing. He had pleaded with someone he had previously ridiculed, his cigar a prop in a performance she had crafted. Victoria's shriek cut through the air. That's impossible, she exclaimed. But the figures were undeniable. Her maid's assets resembled a vast wave eroding their inheritance. Brooke's heels clicked as she retreated, her aspirations for the boardroom a dream against Vivian's actuality. The audience's applause a tribute to her unspoken authority. Their ruin a melody they were powerless to silence. Richard's jaw fell.
Victoria gasped.
Brooke's eyes widened as if struck. Vivian's substantial wealth, amounting to billions, a truly immense fortune, made their $500 million deal seem insignificant. The room felt unstable. Their empire appeared to be crumbling. Police lights flashed outside within hours, assets were frozen, and warrants were issued. The guards advanced, their uniforms sharp, their expressions impassive. Vivian's network, cultivated over years, now positioned itself around her as the screens displayed security logs revealing their identities, exposing her 6-year strategic plan. Richard shouted, "You work for me." But they remained unmoved, one quietly saying, "Not anymore, sir." The feeling of betrayal felt like a knife twisting inside him. Victoria's suggestion to dismiss Vivian seemed like a cruel jest now. She had entrusted her position to a woman who had already established a claim. Brooke's outburst, "She's nothing," faded as the crowd voiced Vivian's name, her quiet ascent to power a triumph they could not seize, their authority diminished by the servant they had attempted to suppress. Richard shouted into a phone, "Correct this." But his legal team was already arranging their departure. Victoria wept, "We are destroyed." Brooke attempted to leave unnoticed, but reporters prevented her, her heels now ineffective. The guards, Vivian's guards, maintained their positions, devoted to her, not to them. Mia ran to Vivian, embracing her leg, and Vivian crouched down, whispering, "You are safe now." The Carlyles were unaware that Mia was Lily's daughter, unaware that Vivian had outmaneuvered them all. The consequences arrived quickly. Inquiries swept through Carlyle assets, revealing tax evasion, fraud, and connections to murder. Richard was arrested. Victoria relinquished her philanthropic endeavors. Brooke's reputation as a socialite disintegrated. Their estate plunged into darkness, gates secured, a lasting symbol of avarice. Vivian didn't accept a single dollar. She presented the proof, departed without stain. She upheld her sister's pledge. Shield Mia, reveal the corruption. No acclaim, no dominion, solely justice, serene and stark. Several weeks elapsed. Vivian stood on a rural highway, Mia holding her hand. No expansive residence, no protectors, just a modest garment and a child mirroring Lily's expression. They headed towards a modest dwelling, unassuming and tranquil, hers. Vivian's victory required no fanfare. She had overcome them through perseverance, kindness, and a keen intellect surpassing their strength. As the sun descended, Mia released a joyful laugh, finally liberated. Often, those who appear reserved can dismantle even the most powerful structures. If this narrative resonated with you, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing for more content. She was removed from the graduation stage due to her attire: a simple white cotton dress, worn ballet flats, and a casually tied ponytail, an appearance that drew attention from those in attendance. "You are not on the speakers list. Please step down," stated the event organizer, the silence that followed as brittle as glass. No explanation was given. There was no public questioning of why Elise Carter, St. Morel's top student, was excluded from the final moment of recognition. Instead, quiet mockery rippled through the audience, unaware that daughters of janitors sometimes aspired to share a stage with those from established families. She descended, 1 foot at a time, moving past gazes filled with judgment. However, just then, the doors swung open, and her fiancé, heir to a billion-dollar empire, entered. Royal Lancaster Hall resembled a cathedral of privilege, its crystal chandeliers projecting prisms of light that shimmered across gilded walls and velvet-draped tables. The air was heavy with the fragrance of orchids and affluence, each guest a dazzling symbol of power. St. Morel Academy's graduation ceremony was far more than just an event. A coronation unfolded for the heirs of Forbes-listed dynasties. Diamond earrings shimmered on every ear, bespoke suits whispered with each movement, and the sound of champagne flutes resonated as a symbol of exclusivity. The students, adorned in silk-lined caps and gowns, were seated in rows of polished mahogany chairs, their futures seemingly predetermined and promising. A live-stream screen displayed the ceremony for those unable to purchase the $5,000 guest tickets, and among the viewers stood Maria Carter, Elise's mother, her hospital janitor scrubs concealed by a borrowed coat, her gaze fixed on her daughter's image. Elise entered, her white cotton dress a subtle rejection of the lavish surroundings. At 22, she was captivating, not with the refined appearance of her contemporaries, but with the natural beauty of someone who had rightfully earned her place. A low ponytail held back her dark hair, highlighting cheekbones and hazel eyes that conveyed warmth and determination. The gentle sound of her faded ballet flats accompanied her across the marble floor, her steps sure despite the challenge of 1,000 stairs. She was the scholarship student, raised by a single mother who cleaned hospital floors to ensure they could pay their rent. Exceptionally intelligent and persistent, she had earned a place among the best at St. Morel's, only to face criticism for the circumstance of her background. The lack of her mother in the hall felt like a hidden pain, as she was aware Maria observed from the chilly street beyond. When Elise settled into her place, the hall's prominent figures initiated a digital attack. Mobile phones illuminated, students rapidly typing, their social media updates a public shaming. Charity case crashes, one wrote, highlighting Elise's worn shoes. Mother posted, St. Morel's biggest mistake, allowing a cleaner's child to attend. The live stream discussion became filled with harsh comments. She's a fraud, and kick her out, peered frequently. Sophia Lyle, a girl in a sapphire gown, stood, her voice audible to Maria outside. Reports indicated her dress was trending as the worst fashion choice of the year. The hall erupted in laughter, a cruel sound, with phones raised as if to attack Elise. She remained still, her hazel eyes focused ahead, though her fingers lightly touched her plaque, revealing a slight tremor that contradicted her composure. Maria's expression on the live stream was one of suffering, each online post feeling like an insult to her honor. The audience's anger intensified, fueled by their outrage at the mob's actions, a tension poised to explode. Ethan Caldwell, a large senior and inheritor of a tech empire, rose from his seat, his substantial build looming over Elise as she remained seated. "You're occupying space you have no right to," he stated, his voice resonating throughout the diamond section. He approached, the sound of his loafers striking the marble floor, his Rolex catching the light as he gestured towards her. "That dress is disrespectful to this hall. Leave before we force you to." A hush fell over the crowd, an unspoken sense of danger palpable as phones were raised to document the scene. Ethan moved closer, his breath warm with champagne, his fingertip hovering near Elise's face. "Your mom scrubs floors, for people like us. Know your place." A scattering of students offered encouragement, their voices keen and insistent. Elise's hands remained clasped, her hazel eyes locked with his, unwavering despite the visible pulse in her neck. A palpable tension filled the air, her silence a delicate defense against his threat, and the audience's anger swelled, yearning for her to be saved. The hall seemed to sway as Elise took her place in the diamond section, designated for the privileged. Murmurs cut through the atmosphere. "Wait, are they renting out diamond seats by the hour now?" scoffed a boy in a tailored tuxedo, his cufflinks gleaming. A girl standing close by, her gown adorned with Swarovski crystals, bent forward. It was evident she had entered without permission. The absence of anyone accompanying her was noticeable. Her voice, measured and harsh, resonated, prompting laughter from those seated nearby. Elise's hands remained still in her lap, her expression calm. She had endured more difficult experiences during her 4 years at St. Morel, including classmates ridiculing her thrift store clothing and professors doubting her suitability for leadership. However, today was meant to be different. It was her graduation day. Natalie Harrington, daughter of a global fashion empire, was positioned 3 rows ahead, her blonde hair falling in flawless waves, and her emerald gown a $20,000 creation. She glanced back, her blue eyes assessing Elise from head to toe, and remarked, loud enough for the entire section to hear, "St. Morel really needs to reevaluate its scholarship standards." She continued, "We can't have commoners ruining the visual harmony." Amusement spread through the section as heads turned to observe Elise's simple dress. A young boy close by called out, asking what's next, and suggesting her mom scrub the stage. The hall was filled with murmurs, the taunting palpable and sustained by Elise's quietness. She didn't react. Her hazel eyes remained focused on the stage, though her fingers briefly clenched, revealing a momentary strain beneath her composure. A professor, Dr. Evelyn Tate, stood from the faculty row, her silk shawl shifting as she addressed the hall with a condescending smile. "Miss Carter's attendance here was generous, but misplaced," she stated, her voice conveying insincere sympathy. "St. Morel is intended for individuals destined for leadership, not those who fulfill supporting roles," she indicated, gesturing toward Elise, her diamond ring catching the light. "Your scholastic achievements are noteworthy, but leadership demands heritage, not benevolence." The audience expressed agreement with quiet sounds and applause, their sense of privilege forming a barrier around Elise. "Perhaps a vocational school would be a more appropriate fit for you," Tate observed, her words carefully chosen to inflict pain. Elise held the plaque in her lap, her hands still, though her hazel eyes betrayed a hidden sorrow. Outside, Maria's hands tightened as the live stream broadcast Tate's dismissive remarks, her daughter's aspirations ridiculed by those who should have supported her. The audience's anger swelled, their outrage at this violation of trust by those in power a searing pain. Natalie Harrington moved closer, her emerald gown reflecting the chandelier's glow, her voice sharp and controlled. She observed her, believing she could occupy our position. She stated, her voice clear enough for the live stream to record each word. She stood, indicating Elise's dress with a gesture, her carefully shaped nails catching the light. "That garment is suited for a laundry basket, not St. Morel's stage. And those flats," she continued, "I wouldn't wear them to walk my dog." The hall erupted in laughter, students applauding, their amusement a public humiliation. A student yelled, "Send her back to the hospital to mop floors." Natalie's smile broadened, her gaze fixed on Elise. "Your mother's a cleaner, and you're just her shadow leeching off our prestige," she hissed, her words intended to inflict pain. Elisa's plaque trembled in her hands, her knuckles whitening. But her face remained composed, a barrier against the attack. The live stream outside showed Maria's face falling, the crowd's harshness a blow to her heart, and the audience grew increasingly agitated, their anger threatening to erupt. The ceremony commenced, the dean's voice resonating through the hall, commending the prospective leaders of the world. Elisa's name was announced for the valedictorian award, her flawless GPA a testament to her exceptional intellect. As she stood, the whispers intensified. She, valedictorian? Questioned a girl adorned with pearls. It must have been achieved through dishonest means. Elise proceeded to the stage, her movements deliberate, her dress reflecting the chandelier's illumination. The applause was subdued, overshadowed by expressions of disapproval. She received her plaque, her smile subtle yet firm, and returned to her seat, the feeling of their assessment feeling more significant than the award she held. A cluster of students close to Elisa's seat rose, spearheaded by Julian Pierce, a banking heir whose smirk matched the precision of his suit. "Let's make her feel welcomed," he announced, throwing a discarded napkin toward her. "Pick it up, cleaner's kid," others echoed, adding straws and programs, creating a mess around her. "This is your level, Elise," Julian sneered, his voice audible on the live stream. Laughter erupted from the audience, with some yelling, "Sweep the stage next." The scattered debris created a mortifying backdrop around Elisa's chair. She remained composed, her cotton dress a symbol of resistance, though her fingers tightened around her plaque, her knuckles bone white. Maria's expression on the live stream conveyed intense distress, each object thrown a painful blow to her daughter's sense of worth. The crowd's anger escalated, their hearts racing, yearning for the mistreatment to stop, for Elise to transcend the crowd's harshness. Claire Voss, a media heiress, her diamond choker catching the light, rose to her feet, her voice cutting and dramatic. "This is mortifying for everyone," she announced, speaking to the hall with regal authority. "Does Elise believe she can be valedictorian in that second-hand dress?" She indicated Elise, her bracelet chiming, a cruel smile playing on her lips. "You're someone who received charity and got fortunate. You are not welcome on this stage." The audience exploded in uproar, students yelling, "Go back to the slums. And she's ruining the aesthetic." Claire lifted a hand, quieting them, her gaze fixed intensely on Elise. "Your mother is insignificant, and you are even less," she stated, her words deliberate and sharp. "Depart before you escalate the situation." Mobile phones illuminated the scene, capturing Elisa's composure, her cotton dress becoming a focal point of their derision. Maria gripped her phone, the live stream showing her daughter's distress. While the audience's frustration grew, their sympathy focused on Elisa's honor. When the student speeches were to be presented, Elisa's name was scheduled to begin. She had dedicated weeks to writing her speech, a recognition of strength, and a tribute to her mother's sacrifices. As she stood, her heart calm, she moved towards the stage, still holding the plaque. A coordinator, a wiry woman wearing a black blazer, blocked her way, holding a clipboard as if it were a shield. "I'm sorry, you're not on the official list of speakers. Please step down," she stated, her voice cold and amplified by the microphone attached to her lapel. The hall fell silent, all eyes fixed on Elise. The coordinator's lips moved slightly, seemingly pleased by the situation. Elise hesitated, her breath momentarily suspended, but her expression remained calm. Ms. Langley, the coordinator, approached Elise, who stood motionless on the stage, her clipboard held high. "Did you hear me, Miss Carter?" she inquired, her voice laced with disapproval and amplified through the microphone. "You will not be speaking today. You are not part of this group." She then faced the audience, offering a strained smile, seemingly seeking their agreement. "We uphold certain standards at St. Morel, and this," she indicated Elisa's dress, "does not meet them." The hall erupted in laughter, a sound like a tidal wave, with students clapping as if at a show. "Perhaps you could assist your mother with the cleanup," Langley remarked, her words pointed. Elisa's plaque vibrated in her hands, her hazel eyes flashing with pain, but she remained silent. The live stream displayed Maria's face, tears flowing, the crowd's harshness a public dismantling of her daughter's aspirations. The viewers' anger intensified, their hearts racing, hoping Elise would withstand this final setback. A murmur arose, spreading quickly. "She's poor." A boy in the front row whispered, his voice audible to those watching the live stream. "Sad, but appropriate," a girl added, her diamond bracelet flashing as she chuckled. Natalie shifted, her expression growing more knowing, her hand lightly touching her dress, as if disregarding the unfolding situation. She had planned this, dedicating hours to influencing the event committee, making sure Elise's name was removed from the speakers. This was her last offering to the beneficiary who had the audacity to overshadow her. The hall's laughter amplified, a collective expression of derision, each syllable a missile aimed at Elise's reputation. Outside, Maria held her phone, her complexion ashen, the live stream displaying her daughter's embarrassment for all to see. Elise remained motionless, her fingers subtly shaking around the plaque. The coordinator indicated the staircase, her urgency noticeable. "Please proceed, Ms. Carter," she stated, her voice clear enough for the rear sections to hear. The hall seemed to anticipate Elise's faltering, her tears, her demonstration of inadequacy. However, Elise remained composed. She raised her head, her hazel eyes surveyed the room, and she spoke, her voice firm and unwavering, piercing the surrounding sounds like a sharp instrument. "Thank you for revealing who genuinely belongs in this place." The words were gentle, yet they held a significance that momentarily hushed the murmurs. She then turned, her footsteps silent on the marble, and started to walk away from the stage, her head held high, her dignity a protection against their harshness. As Elise began to leave the stage, Natalie stood up again, her emerald gown a beacon of spite. "This is why we don't associate with the staff," she announced, her voice sharp and clear through the hall. "Elise, you're a stain on St." The impact of Morel's legacy was palpable. A harsh judgment fell, "Your mother's a failure, and you're her echo," accompanied by a gesture towards the live stream screen, acknowledging Maria's viewership. "Go join her outside where you both belong." The audience responded with cheers, their applause seeming to mock Elise's distress, as phones documented her every movement. "No one wants you here," Natalie added, her smile laced with malice. Elise's flats made a soft sound on the marble floor, her plaque clutch held firmly, her hazel eyes reflecting a quiet determination. Maria's sobs resonated through the live stream, the crowd's harshness a public dismantling of her daughter's aspirations. The audience's anger boomed, their spirits saddened, hoping Elise would withstand this ultimate setback. The hall's derision intensified as she walked down the steps. "Back to the slums," cried a boy, his voice lost in the laughter. A girl threw a crumpled program at Elise's feet, saying, "Pick it up, janitors, kid." The paper slid across the floor, brushing Elise's flats, but she didn't stop. Her steps were even, her face serene, but the audience outside, Marias's audience, felt each insult as a physical blow. Maria's hands shook, tears streaked her face, but she didn't avert her gaze from the screen. Elise was her daughter, her pride, and they were dismantling her for entertainment. The hall's laughter was a storm, unrelenting, each remark a wound no one could see but everyone could feel. Natalie stood, her emerald gown shimmering, her voice ringing out. "Let's acknowledge her effort with applause," she stated, clapping deliberately and with a hint of sarcasm. The auditorium responded, the sound echoing emptily, a distorted imitation of reverence. "Perhaps she could present at the community college next," Natalie remarked, her smile sharp. The laughter intensified, phones lighting up as students documented Elise's departure, their captions already being composed. "Scholarship girl falters." Elise's form diminished against the stage's light, her cotton dress a striking difference from the radiant audience. She felt isolated and vulnerable, her opportunity taken by individuals unfamiliar with hardship. The audience's frustration was palpable, their emotions aligned with Elise, hoping she would retaliate. Suddenly, the doors opened and all movement ceased. Security cleared a path, their dark suits creating a sharp contrast to the hall's grandeur. Bright light flooded the space, highlighting a person in a gray suit and black tie. Noah Grayson, only successor to Grayson Industries, entered the room. At 24, he possessed a striking presence. Tall and lean, with dark hair swept back and eyes like carved steel, sharp enough to cut through lies. His presence was electric and commanding, the kind that silenced a room without a word. He had built Grayson Industries' renewable energy arm into a $50 billion empire, and his name was whispered in boardrooms from Tokyo to New York. But to Elise, he was simply Noah, the man who'd fallen for her mind, her heart, and her quiet strength. Noah approached Elise, his movements purposeful, his eyes fixed on her. The hall seemed to pause, the sound of laughter fading. He extended his hand, his touch gentle yet steady, halting her progress. "You're not going anywhere," he stated, his voice quiet but strong, audible throughout the hall. "This is a ceremony of honor, and you're the only one here who genuinely deserves it." Elisa's eyes relaxed, a subtle smile gracing her lips. However, she remained silent, her lack of words more impactful than any declaration. Noah's hand remained on hers, his touch conveying a promise, a protection from the atmosphere of the room. He addressed the event organizers, his steady gaze focusing on the coordinator, who visibly recoiled. "I've been the primary sponsor of St. Moral for 3 years," Noah stated, his voice calm yet resolute, each word carrying significant weight. "This hall's construction, the scholarships you receive, and the continuation of your legacy were all made possible by my family's contributions. However, I am formally withdrawing all future funding unless Elise Carter is invited back onto that stage. Immediately." The event coordinator's clipboard visibly shook, and her complexion drained. The dean, positioned at the front, rose to speak, but Noah's intense look stopped him. The hall felt like a silent chamber, with every attendee motionless, their earlier confidence dissipating under Noah's control. Noah's gaze moved to Natalie, who appeared stiff, her smile vanished, her hands tightly holding her dress. "Natalie Harrington," he stated, his voice sharp and clear, "you sent me 27 messages over the last 4 months, requesting a meeting, a partnership, an opportunity to be at my family's table. Don't believe I was unaware that you altered the speaker list today." A sudden commotion filled the room, eliciting gasps and murmurs as heads turned to Natalie. Her face was flushed, and her eyes moved quickly, desperately seeking an escape route. "You believed you could remove Elisa's name," Noah stated, his voice cold, "but you have only damaged your own reputation." Natalie's chair scraped against the floor as she rose, her voice shaking. "That is not accurate," she insisted, but the attention of the hall was now focused on her, scrutinizing, disapproving. The coordinator spoke quietly to the dean, who responded with a somber nod. Security advanced towards Natalie, their footsteps echoing on the marble. "Ms. Harrington, you're needed at the disciplinary board," one stated, his voice resolute. Natalie's gown snagged on her chair as she lost her balance, her heels striking the floor in a defeated rhythm. The hall remained silent as she was led away, her sphere of power diminishing with each step. Noah's voice resonated, a commanding presence that quelled the hall's whispers. He stated that this wasn't solely Natalie's responsibility, his gaze sharp as he surveyed the audience, identifying those involved. "I possess evidence, emails, texts, and witness testimonies, demonstrating a planned effort to remove Elise from the speaker list." He retrieved a tablet from his suit, its screen illuminating with information. "Claire Voss, you provided a bribe of $50,000 to the event committee to modify the list. Ethan Caldwell, you disseminated rumors regarding Elisa's alleged academic dishonesty to damage her GPA reputation. Ms. Langley, it is known that you enforced the altered list for a promotion." A collective gasp rippled through the room, with heads turning towards the accused, their faces visibly paling. Grayson Industries is initiating an investigation, and individuals implicated will confront legal repercussions, Noah announced. Elisa's reputation is paramount. The hall's silence was palpable, those found wanting visibly retracting under his scrutiny, and the audience erupted in applause, their spirits lifting as justice prevailed. Dean Dr. Harold Vance approached the podium, his face pale, his voice wavering under Noah's intense look. "St. Morel has let down its most promising student," he announced, his words transmitted to the live stream. Elise Carter's exclusion was a planned action, and we acknowledge complete responsibility. He addressed the faculty, specifically mentioning Dr. Tate. Your comments were inappropriate, and you are suspended while a review takes place. He then spoke to the students, his voice resolute. An investigation into harassment is underway concerning Julian Pierce and Sophia Lyle. Expulsion is a possible consequence. A collective gasp rippled through the room as the accused visibly recoiled, their confidence diminishing. Ms. Langley, your involvement in this sabotage concludes your time here, Vance announced. The silence in the hall felt like a judgment, while the live-stream audience expressed their approval as events transpired. Elise remained composed, her cotton dress appearing radiant, embodying a sense of grace. A wave of emotion swept through the audience, the hall's appearance a clear sign of her victory. An outside livestream showed her leaving, the audience applauding Elise's validation. Elise returned to the stage, her cotton dress shimmering beneath the chandeliers, still holding her plaque. The hall was quiet now, everyone's heads lowered, the previous ridicule now replaced with regret. She approached the podium, her hazel eyes scanning the room, her voice calm and resolute. This moment wasn't hers alone, she stated, her words gentle but impactful. It was for her mother, who had instructed her that diligence surpasses riches. It was for each student informed they don't belong. The applause commenced, initially subdued, then growing a wave of esteem. Elise didn't revel in it, she didn't require it. Her silence had conveyed volumes. Her dignity had prevailed. Elise approached the podium, her presence a restrained power that transformed the hall. I stand here not for myself, but for every voice silenced by wealth, she stated, her voice clear, resonating with unwavering strength. My mother taught me that honor isn't bought, it's earned. This scholarship in my name will ensure no student is judged for their background. She raised her plaque, its gold a symbol of her triumph, and faced the audience. St. Morel will change or it will fall, I choose change. The applause erupted, students and guests standing, their earlier scorn replaced by reverence. Noah's eyes shone with pride, his hand brushing hers, a silent vow. On the live stream, Maria's face glowed, the crowd chanting, Elise, Elise. The chandeliers above seemed to blaze, reflecting a legacy forged in truth. The audience's hearts thundered, Elise's words a clarion call, her triumph a light that would burn forever. The ceremony continued, but the atmosphere had changed. Noah took a seat beside Elise, his hand brushing hers, a quiet promise of forever. The dean announced new honors. Maria Carter, Elise's mother, received the Inspiration of the Year award, her name appearing on the livestream screen. Maria's tears shifted to a smile as the crowd outside cheered with pride. Grayson Industries announced a $10 million scholarship in Elise's name for students demonstrating leadership potential from low-income families. The audience responded with applause, but Elise's gaze was fixed on Noah, her heart brimming, her triumph achieved. Standing at the podium, Elise experienced a profound silence that highlighted her victory. This moment isn't solely for my benefit, she stated, her voice firm, carrying a strength that impressed those present. It's for my mother, who worked nights to provide me with an opportunity. It's for every student who has been told their aspirations are too modest. She displayed her plaque, its gold gleaming in the light, and continued, Grayson Industries' leadership in my name will create openings for others similar to me, and I'll ensure St. Morel never forgets the meaning of honor. The applause resonated, students and guests rising, their previous disapproval now replaced by wonder. Noah stood beside her, his hand on hers, his pride a silent strength. Outside, Maria's face was illuminated on the live stream, the crowd chanting Elise's name. The hall's chandeliers appeared to shine more brilliantly, mirroring a fresh legacy, one founded on truth, not wealth. The audience's hearts expanded, Elise's victory a symbol of justice destined to resonate beyond these walls. Following the ceremony's conclusion, Noah and Elise emerged, the spring air cool against their skin. He held a small velvet box, a diamond ring glittering in the sunlight. Turning to Elise Carter, he spoke, his voice gentle, intended only for her. You're my home, my truth. Will you marry me? Her smile was radiant, her nod immediate. The crowd outside erupted, Maria rushing to embrace them, her scrubs a badge of honor. Elise and Noah stood together, their hands entwined, their future a beacon of hope. Natalie faced a brief disciplinary hearing, resulting in expulsion for altering the honors list. Her family's reputation suffered. The live stream gained global popularity, elevating Elise and dominating social media, her narrative embodying resilience. Saint Morel's reputation evolved, its influence expanding, its character transformed by a girl in a cotton dress. Elise needed no adornments. She represented hope. Like, share, and subscribe for more narratives such as this, and let us know in the comments, who would you have applauded? The moment she entered the publishing office, she was dismissed. Her coat was of frayed wool, her shoes worn, and she held a thick manuscript bound with tape, the pages already yellowing. The receptionist scrutinized her, raising an eyebrow as if detecting an unpleasant odor. "You're here to submit a story? Handwritten?" An editor with slicked-back hair barely glanced at the title before laughing. "A boy wizard living under the stairs? This seems like a low-budget Tolkien adaptation." The room erupted in laughter. A staffer even picked up the manuscript, displayed it, and quipped, "Another legend, handwritten, ideal for the recycling bin." Then they threw it directly in front of her. Emily knelt, recovered her manuscript, carefully smoothed a torn corner, and turned away, refusing to lower her head. She offered only a small nod, as if they were the ones being turned down. They simply didn't understand. What they discarded would become a literary phenomenon for an entire generation. And the woman they just mocked would reshape the world. Emily Brooks resided in a small flat above a bustling chip shop in London, a dwelling characterized by the scent of grease and a radiator that rattled like it was performing for a horror film. She was 31, a single mother to a 6-year-old daughter Lily, who slept on a mattress in the corner while Emily wrote at a shaky kitchen table. Each day began at dawn, balancing toast and crayons for Lily, followed by a quick trip to drop her off at school before going to the cafe close to King's Cross Station. The cafe was a somewhat run-down establishment with greasy food, chipped mugs, and a jukebox that had been broken since the 90s. Despite its appearance, it served as her sanctuary. There, in a corner booth, she would open her notebook and write, her pen creating a world where a boy named Harry Potter lived under a staircase, dreaming of magic. Her attire was unassuming, a pale sweater, a skirt mended at the bottom, shoes so dilapidated that the soles detached during rain. Her dark hair was frequently disheveled, secured with a rubber band, with strands escaping as if possessing a will of their own. She remained indifferent. She wasn't writing to gain recognition. She was writing for Lily, for herself, for the children she observed at the library who possessed only stories to find solace in. The manuscript, Harry Potter and the Glass Owl, represented her deepest emotions, a story of a boy who was overlooked, who discovered magic in a world that disregarded him, who ultimately chose to believe in himself. Each word was meticulously handwritten, each page a testament to her dedication, with pages taped together after the binding failed. Emily submitted it to 12 publishers. She had spent her remaining £20 on postage, carefully wrapping each copy in brown paper, her hands trembling as she closed the envelopes. She hadn't anticipated a positive response, merely an opportunity, but the rejections arrived quickly, each one sharply disappointing. "Do not attempt to write fantasy if you lack understanding of the world," one letter stated, bearing the signature of a senior editor at Crownwell Press, Martin Hale. "A woman writing magic? No thank you," another declared, the words written in red ink by a junior editor named Clara Voss. A note, "This tone belongs in a child's after-school diary, not a bookstore," came from someone at Regent House. It was written by Simon Trent, a literary agent. His name was stamped in gold on the letterhead. Emily read each one quietly, keeping her face calm. Then she put them away in a drawer. She didn't cry. She returned to the cafe and continued writing. While at a local bookshop where Emily occasionally looked at books, she overheard a literary scout from Pinnacle Books, Clara Voss, talking with the owner. "You won't believe the audacity of this woman," Clara stated, her voice laced with disdain. "Some single mom, appearing disheveled, believes she's created wizardry. I instructed my team to discard it to prevent it from consuming more space. The owner laughed, briefly looking at Emily, who was examining a used paperback nearby, oblivious to being discussed. Likely another sentimental narrative seeking sympathy, he remarked, speaking loudly enough for her to overhear. A customer interjected, a smirk playing on his face. What's she going to do? Cast a spell to get published? The others chuckled, glances darting towards Emily's worn skirt and unkempt hair. She remained looking down, her fingers following the book's spine, but the atmosphere shifted, their comments a burden she carried as she returned to her cafe booth. Her pen wavered a little as she wrote, yet she persisted. Her story would be her reply. Emily was seated in her cafe booth on a rainy afternoon, her notebook open, when a group of publishing interns from Regent House entered, their laughter echoing through the space. One noticed her and nudged his friends, saying, "Look, it's the wizard lady, still writing her kitty stories." He approached her, peering at her pages and asking, "What's this? Harry, what's it? Gonna make you rich, huh, love?" His friends laughed, and one mimicked her pen strokes with exaggerated flourishes. "Bet she thinks bookstores are begging for this drivel," another remarked, speaking loud enough for other patrons to hear. A waitress, joining in the derision, placed Emily's coffee down with force, adding, "Dreamers like you clog up the place." The interns quickly took a selfie with her visible in the background and posted it online with the caption, "Hatch fantasy fail. Single mom's sad hobby." Emily's hand paused, ink smudging slightly, but her face remained composed, her gaze fixed on the page. The cafe felt smaller, their unkindness a storm she endured quietly, her story her only support. The most difficult experience came from Crownwell Press. Emily had found the strength to hand-deliver her manuscript in person, hoping a direct meeting might influence them. She stood in their modern office, all glass and chrome, holding her pages. Martin Hale, the editor who had rejected her by mail, was present, accompanied by assistants. He glanced at her worn coat and smirked. An unfamiliar woman, appearing like a housewife, who believes she's crafting the next mythology. Absurd. He didn't bother to open the manuscript. Instead, he raised it with 2 fingers, as if it were unclean, and dropped it into a recycling bin. His assistants chuckled, one saying, "Back to the kitchen, love." Emily crouched, recovered her pages, and departed silently. Her quietness wasn't surrender, it was resistance, a pledge to her story. Leaving Crownwell Press, Emily held her manuscript securely. A group of assistants trailed her to the elevator, their laughter bouncing off the hallway walls. One, a young woman wearing a designer scarf, remarked, "Hey housewife, perhaps stick to knitting next time. Writing is best left to the professionals." Another playfully imitated her walk, emphasizing the movement of her worn shoes, while a third took a photograph and shared it online with the caption, "Delusional wannabe attempts to enter the publishing world epic fail." The elevator doors shut, but their laughter persisted, clear and unwavering. Emily stood within, her reflection barely visible on the metallic surfaces, her expression calm but her fingers pressed tightly around her papers. Outside, a person on the sidewalk recognized her from the online post and gestured, saying to a companion, "That's the woman who believed she could create a bestseller." The urban environment appeared to taunt her, each look a reminder of her disappointment. Still, she continued walking, her quietness a defense, her narrative complete. Following the receipt of another rejection notice, Emily went to Pinnacle Books to make her appeal, her manuscript held securely. Clara Voss greeted her in the entrance hall, her red heels striking the floor with a sharp sound. "You again?" Clara said sharply, observing Emily's mended sweater. "I told you nobody desires your small magic story." She summoned coworkers, her tone derisive. "This is the one who believes she's the upcoming sensation, a single mother with a fairy tale." Laughter filled the air. One assistant discarded a crumpled coffee cup towards a bin close to Emily, and smiled when it brushed her arm. "Oops, thought you'd catch it with a spell," he remarked, winking at Clara. A security guard who overheard joined in, saying, "Time to go, lady, don't waste their time." Clara dismissed him with a wave, already turning away. "Stick to raising your kid, not writing flops." She called out, her words reverberating through the lobby with the sound of snickers. Emily departed, her gait resolute, her manuscript intact, yet the impact of their remarks lingered, a chilling dampness. Several months elapsed, and Emily's finances decreased. She reduced her food intake to purchase Lily new shoes, while her own coat became increasingly worn as winter's chill intensified. She was nearing the end of her resources when a letter arrived from Willow Tree Press, a small publisher struggling to stay afloat in a basement office. The owner, Margaret Cole, was direct. "The situation is precarious, your book presents a risk, but I find it promising. We'll print 1,000 copies. Conditional on using initials, ensuring anonymity. No one should know the author is a woman." Emily paused, her pen poised over the contract. She was reluctant to conceal her identity, but Lily needed school supplies, and the flat's rent was overdue. She signed as E.J. Brooks. Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was released in June, a subtle distribution in a few London bookshops. The cover was simple, just a drawing of an owl with glass wings, the title in a small font, understated and without promotion. Emily didn't anticipate much. She continued working, taking shifts at a laundromat to make ends meet, writing at the cafe when she had time. However, then something changed. A public school in Leeds sent her a letter, handwritten by a teacher named Ms. Patel. It read, "We read your book to our class. The children haven't stopped discussing Harry. They cried when he found the glass owl. Thank you." Emily clutched the letter, her throat constricted, and placed it with her other rejection notices. When Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was initially released, it was a quiet debut amidst a flurry of well-established titles. However, it quickly gained momentum. A bookshop in Glasgow organized a reading, and children filled the space, captivated as Harry confronted the Shadow Veil. Parents shared accounts of nightly readings, their voices hushed with wonder. "My daughter hadn't engaged with a book in years. Now she refuses to put Harry Potter and the Glass Owl down." By August, London's biggest bookstore saw a line extending out the door, with children holding copies and reciting Harry's spells as if they were a hidden language. A video that became widely shared online featured a boy in Sydney imitating the glass owl's flight, his cardboard wings flapping energetically. News publications described it as a sensation arising unexpectedly. Emily's World, Hogwarts's candlelit halls, the owl's shimmering prophecy, was more than just a story. It provided a sense of belonging for those often disregarded. The book gained widespread recognition, each copy reflecting her unwavering spirit. The audience responded with enthusiastic applause, acknowledging the world's discovery of her. News of the book's popularity quickly circulated. A teacher in Manchester read excerpts aloud, and her students created drawings of Harry's wand, affixing them to their desks. A librarian in Bristol placed an order for 10 additional copies following disputes among children vying for the sole existing copy. A blogger, identified as Katie, a young person, shared a quote online. "The boy who wasn't chosen, chose himself." It received 100 likes, then 1,000, then 10,000. By September, bookshops were unable to maintain sufficient inventory. Parents described it as magical. Children claimed it as their own. A photograph circulated widely online, depicting a girl in a hospital bed clutching Harry Potter, smiling for the first time in weeks. Emily viewed it on a library computer and wiped her eyes, her heart full. By autumn, Harry Potter and the Glass Owl was no longer simply a book, it was a cultural phenomenon. Schools throughout Britain designated it required reading. Researchers observed a remarkable shift. Children who previously showed little interest in reading eagerly finished Harry's story. A Paris library reported wait lists extending for months, with teenagers drawing the glass owl in their notebooks. In Chicago, a community center hosted a themed event, where families dressed as wizards, their laughter resonating through the streets. Social media platforms were filled with shared quotes. "The boy who was not initially selected ultimately asserted himself." Artwork appeared on bedroom walls, and phrases were permanently marked on wrists. A Tokyo newsstand sold out within hours. The clerk remarked, "It's like Harry is real." Emily's narrative had cast a spell, its influence extending across borders, giving a voice to those who were unheard. Bookstores requested additional printings, their shelves emptied, as readers sent a large number of letters to Willow Tree Press. Demands for more Harry were constant. The world wasn't simply reading, it was experiencing her dream, and the audience felt each triumph personally. 3 months following its release, the book became incredibly popular. It reached the bestseller lists initially in the UK, then in America and subsequently in Japan. News outlets proclaimed headlines, with considerable intrigue surrounding author E.J. Brooks's reimagining of fantasy. Bookstores experienced sellout conditions, placing reprint orders numbering in the thousands. Willow Tree Press, rescued from bankruptcy, relocated to a more suitable office. Margaret Cole contacted Emily, her voice trembling, stating, "We're printing 1 million copies." "1 million? Who are you?" Emily chuckled quietly, still wearing her worn coat, replying, "Just a mom who enjoys telling stories." As winter approached, Harry Potter and the Glass Owl became a source of hope. Marketers and deli shops organized midnight releases, with children chanting Harry's name under lantern light. A Brazilian orphanage shared a story of children pooling coins to purchase a shared copy, reading by flashlight after curfew. Numerous fan letters were sent to Willow Tree Press, including drawings of Hogwarts, poems about the Glass Owl, and stories of overcoming bullies, inspired by Harry. A London theatre adapted the story, selling out weeks in advance, with the audience weeping as Harry's wand lit the stage. Critics who initially dismissed the work now acknowledged its merit, with one reviewer stating that Brooks had created a myth possessing an enduring quality. The book's impact extended beyond the written word, inspiring bravery and igniting imaginations. From Moscow to Mexico City, readers displayed owl pins, a subtle reference to Emily's universe. Her narrative overcame skepticism, its popularity a recognition she did not actively pursue, and the audience reveled in its brilliance. The National Literary Gala, the publishing world's equivalent of the Oscars, took place at the Savoy Hotel, filled with crystal chandeliers and formal black tie attire. Emily received an invitation, not as a typical attendee, but as the guest of honor. She nearly declined to attend. Lily was suffering from a cold, and the train ticket to central London was costly, but Margaret urged her to go, sending a ticket and a note that read, "You deserve this." Emily chose to wear a plain linen dress, pale blue in color, which she had purchased from a charity shop for a $5. The shoes were the familiar, well-worn pair, her hair loose and slightly disheveled. She carried her notebook, prepared for any sudden inspiration during the train ride. The gala presented a spectacle of tailored suits and glittering gowns, the atmosphere heavy with champagne and self-importance. Emily entered discreetly, her invitation clutched firmly, initially unnoticed by the attendees. She positioned herself near a pillar, observing editors and agents exchange greetings, their laughter reminiscent of the Crownwell office. Martin Hale was present, networking while holding a glass of whiskey, his slicked-back hair reflecting the light. Clara Voss, representing Pinnacle Books, commanded attention in a red dress, casually dismissing a waiter with a gesture. Simon Trent, the Regent House agent, spoke proudly of his newest acquisition, his voice audible above the general conversation. They did not notice Emily as she passed, her linen dress seeming understated amidst their elegant attire. She greeted several publishers with a handshake, her grip steady but kind. Martin Hale casually touched her hand, his gaze already searching for someone of greater significance. He offered a greeting, stating, "Nice to meet you," without inquiring about her name, and concluded with, "Enjoy the evening." Clara Voss responded with a strained smile, quietly remarking to an assistant, "Who's that? Some blogger?" Simon Trent remained engrossed in his phone, not acknowledging her at all. Emily offered a courteous nod, her expression calm, and proceeded. She didn't require their validation. She had come for the children who adored Harry, for Lily, for the narrative that continued to endure. A palpable excitement filled the room as the host, a BBC presenter known for his smooth delivery, stepped onto the stage. "Tonight, we celebrate the literary world's most accomplished talents," he began, his smile radiant. But he continued, noting that one name had eclipsed all others. A debut novel, published under initials, had resonated with readers worldwide. It had revolutionized storytelling, provided children with a role model, and rescued a publisher from financial hardship. The audience shifted expectantly, murmuring, "Could it possibly be E.J. Brooks? Here?" Martin Hale straightened his tie, a smirk directed at Clara Voss. "Likely an Oxbridge graduate pretending to be modest," he remarked. Clara acknowledged him with a roll of her eyes. The host's voice increased in volume. "Please welcome the author of the decade's best-selling novel, the woman who created an entire world for millions of children, Emily Brooks." The ballroom became still. Glasses tapped, breathing paused. Emily advanced, her linen dress reflecting the light, her well-worn shoes making no sound on the polished floor. Strands of hair remained tangled, and her notebook was held beneath her arm. Yet, her eyes, steady, warm, and resolute, commanded the attention of everyone present. She ascended the stage, each step carefully placed, as if Hogwarts itself provided support. Martin Hale's whiskey spilled from his hand, staining his shoes. Clara Voss's red dress appeared to constrict, her face losing color. Simon Trent's phone fell onto the table, his earlier claim overlooked. The audience was quiet, a multitude of astonished expressions as Emily arrived at the podium. She placed her notebook down, her fingers lightly touching the aged cover, and gazed out at the room. When she spoke, her voice was distinct and measured, resembling an incantation being spoken. "You dismissed the story before you proceeded to the next page. Now the entire world is reading it." The room fell silent. Emily did not elevate her tone, nor did she direct accusations. She found no need to. Her words resonated as undeniable truths, precise and absolute. "I wrote Harry Potter and the Glass Owl for my daughter, for children who feel invisible, for anyone who's ever been told they're not enough. You didn't see it, you didn't have to. The children did, they found Harry and he found them." She paused, her gaze sweeping the front row. Martin, Clara, Simon, all frozen. "This isn't about me, it's about a boy who chose himself, and the millions who chose him back." As Emily spoke from the gala stage, the crowd's silence broke into murmurs of awe. A children's librarian, positioned towards the rear, was the first to rise, applauding with great enthusiasm. "My students read Harry Potter nightly," she exclaimed, her voice filled with emotion. "They've begun writing their own stories thanks to you." The room shifted, faces expressing surprise, as others echoed her sentiment. A bookseller who had exhausted their stock in a few hours, and a parent whose previously timid son now embodied Harry's bravery. Emily's narrative had created a world so detailed it felt tangible, Harry's wand flickering under starlight, the glass owl's wings gleaming with mysteries. Her ability wasn't merely proficiency, it was transformation, converting sorrow into optimism. The applause intensified, a surge of admiration, as publishers who had disregarded her now rapidly wrote her name down, recognizing they had overlooked a brilliant talent. Emily remained there, her linen dress a focal point, her understated resilience more impactful than their applause. The applause began gradually, a gentle undulation that built into a powerful surge, shaking the chandeliers. It was more than mere courtesy, it was heartfelt and genuine. Emily moved from the stage, her dress flowing, and returned to her position beside the pillar. Behind the curtain, the gala was filled with discussion of Harry Potter and the Glass Owl. A critic, standing close to the bar, who had previously expressed doubts, confessed, "I read it last week and couldn't stop reading it." He continued, "The way Harry confronts the shadow veil. It's not just a story, it's a reflection for every child who's experienced feelings of isolation." A young author held her signed copy, telling a friend, "It's as if Emily understood my childhood, the bullies, the dreams, and transformed them into something magical." The book's world felt vibrant, Hogwarts halls resounding with spells, the Glass Owl's prophecy permeating every page, children in Tokyo dressed as Harry for Halloween, parents in New York reading it aloud, their voices breaking at the conclusion. Its language had initiated book clubs, inspired fan art, and even led to a school play in Dublin. Emily's story resonated deeply, its enchantment touching hearts across the globe. Attendees noticed her near the pillar, transformed from an unknown individual into an author whose writing had reshaped perception. During the gala, while Emily stood by her pillar, the book's reputation intensified. A bookseller confided in a critic, speaking with conviction, "I've sold thousands of books, but Harry Potter, it's truly exceptional. Children read it as if it were essential." On the other side of the room, a teacher described how her class constructed a cardboard Hogwarts, their faces glowing with pride. Enthusiasts had started a worldwide campaign, "Read Like Harry," prompting libraries to increase their fantasy selections for children. Passages from the book, such as Harry's duel with the Frost Wraith and the Owl's whispered prophecy, were recited in classrooms, cafes, and even parliaments. A UN delegate confessed it influenced her speech on hope. Emily's impact resonated far beyond recognition. It was a transformative power, redefining perspectives on courage, loss, and love. From Cape Town, readers shared videos, celebrating with dances to Harry's theme, while New York's Times Square displayed the book's cover. The murmurings of the audience shifted to awe, their gaze fixed on Emily, now perceived as a mythmaker in a linen dress, her triumph a shared global victory. The host struggled to proceed, but their words fell on deaf ears. Attention remained on Emily, whispers circulating. "Is that her? She's E.J. Brooks? She authored that book?" Martin Hale slumped into his chair, his face ashen. Clara Voss held her clutch tightly, her smile vanished. Simon Trent looked at his phone, as if willing the moment to disappear. By morning, the consequences arrived quickly. Crownwell Press, Martin Hale's source of pride, encountered a public relations crisis. Blogs resurrected the recycling bin incident, and readers overwhelmed social media. Crownwell passed on Harry Potter.
Bileyim hale.
The board reduced his position to junior editor, his office relocated to a cubicle. The reputation of Clara Voss's pinnacle books suffered a significant blow when a leaked email revealed her no women note. Authors departed, and her newest fantasy series failed, derisively labeled "No Magic Here." Simon Trent's agency experienced a loss of clients following his boast about dismissing Emily's diary entries. His letterhead, embossed in gold, held no value now. His workspace was covered with manuscripts that hadn't sold. The publishing world reacted as Emily's triumph became apparent. Simon Trent, the agent who had previously dismissed Emily's diary entries, observed his agency collapse swiftly. Prominent authors distanced themselves, pointing to his perceived lack of foresight, as bookstores declined to stock his clients' titles, prioritizing displays for Harry Potter. His gold-stamped letterhead became a target for online ridicule, with memes labeling it the man who missed magic. Clara Voss's professional life suffered a dramatic downturn following the viral spread of her no women email. Pinnacle's share price decreased significantly, leading to her reassignment to editing cookbooks, her red dress now a source of regret. Even Martin Hale's reduction in role caused considerable distress. Rumors circulated among his colleagues regarding his mistake, and his electronic correspondence was flooded with negative feedback from readers. They had discarded Harry. Their pride had resulted in complete loss, their identities now minor references in Emily's celebrated story. Applause erupted as online platforms declared her the sovereign writer who crafted narratives with simplicity and honesty. Emily ignored the commotion. She was at the cafe, working on the next installment, her writing instrument moving while Lily played nearby. Willow Tree Press sent her a royalty payment. The prize provided enough for a larger apartment, a suitable bed for Lily, and a fresh notebook. She remained composed, silent in her triumph, and simply wrote, her story proving more resilient than their criticism. The world embraced Harry Potter, and Emily Brooks, the individual once dismissed as insignificant, evolved into a celebrated figure. This demonstrates the strength of a narrative that refuses to be silenced. If this story resonated with you, please like, share, comment, and subscribe for more content.